Well, I guess now that we've relaxed and eliminated our stress, had a good night's sleep, we need to talk about the thing we need to talk about AEW wrestling for Wednesday night, September 3rd, AEW Dynamite. The story this week is the ratings, and we're going to tell you what they are. But first, we got to tell you what contributed to them being that way. And Brian, okay, let me give you two scenarios. Think about this. If you're a farmer living out in the middle of nowhere on a country road, and you're sitting on your porch and you front poach, and you got your old hound dog by your side, and you're watching the birds fly around in the front yard, and all of a sudden you see a car coming down the road from the west coming from Pixley, and a car down from the east coming from Bug Tussle. And as they get right in front of your house, they just run right the fuck into each other. Boom! Right head on, and holy shit, and the airbags pop, and shit catches on fire, and here comes some police, and here comes a fire engine, here comes an ambulance. They carry people off to the hospital. There's scorched marks on the road in front of your house. You're going to remember that for a long time, aren't you? You're going to tell that story 20 years from now. You're going to be telling that story to your little grandbabies, and the people that know you are going to be sick of that fucking story. You're going to remember every detail, right?
More than likely, it's an extraordinary occurrence.
Exactly. Now let's say that you live in an apartment in the middle of the city at the intersection of two major roadways that have people constantly making illegal left turns. And about once or twice a week, there's somebody smashing into each other in the front of your house where you're looking out the window. And there's fire engines and there's police cars.
Yeah.
Huh?
Queens Boulevard. I've heard of this.
Queens Boulevard. There you go. And King's Crossing. And all of those royal places there. Well, you know, there's royalty in America too. And the police cars and the fire engine, they're there every day. You're always hearing sirens. So next week, you might not remember the details of everything that happened because you see it all the time. This is where we're at with AEW television, and this is what we've been talking about for years and years, in that sooner or later, the chickens, as they say, come home to roost when the only change in the shows and the way the shows are presented is that they do more shit now. Because they have to do more, because they've done so much that they have to do more to make it outstanding, to make it memorable, to make it, but they've already lost the cause and they've already shit the bed, because what can you do? In the past 2 weeks, they have hospitalized and put out of action Kenny Omega because he needs to be out of action, as procedures planned and things to do. And Swerve Strickland because he's got to get worked on. And Will Ospreay because he's got to get worked on. But even when people know they're already hurt, they still have to fucking hospitalize them. So now there is such chaos and carnage, people being run over, jumped off of shit. You're just watching an endless parade of a variation on the same theme, and it gets more and more, and it impacts you less and less because you've seen so much of it, until finally you're not even turning around when the cars run into each other. And this is the problem with why they have been, they haven't bled viewers, they have trickled viewers. But over a period of 5 years, when you look back at the first goddamn year, they were doing 800, 900,000, sometimes 1 million people. But then it's gradually descended over a period of time because people wear out. You get sick of it. You get tired of it. What more can they do? What more can I see? I can't keep track of this shit. It doesn't make any sense. All of my favorite wrestlers are either gone or always hurt. Or they botched the guy that they brought in that I wanted to like. And you can't blame Max because Max didn't even, however many people are watching on Max, they had already lost 300,000 or more off of their weekly average before the Max thing started. What are those people doing? Watching fucking slides on a barn wall? And it's gotten worse over the last several weeks when concurrently with apparently when Tony said he's decided to take over everything again and follow his instincts, and his instincts are to put as many people as he can into every goddamn thing, and there's no restraint, where there's multiple acts of mayhem happening on every show. And then what else you gonna fucking do? And who gives a shit?
You know, I had a...
They would, I'll say this, hold that thought, they'd get more attention on this television program if they arrested Chuck E. Cheese than if they hospitalized Kenny Omega. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Especially at the end of the show, a show that traditionally just hemorrhages viewers at the end of the show, yet they keep doing things at the end of the show. There's long-term damage. And unfortunately, there are people who are blind to any reality about AEW that isn't positive. The main one being Tony Khan. But it's also the people that Tony talks to, that he texts with, that aren't honest with him that he's not good at this. And if he was, it wouldn't be now 6 years in. They tried to make a big deal just recently. Everything's up. Everything, we're having a great year. Pay-per-view is up. Ratings are up year over year, which hasn't made sense to anyone. We do them every week on the show. We follow them. We can't even figure out what's up versus last year. But at the same time, there's been this feeling watching Dynamite like it's dying. And it's because there's no star power. And even if Ospreay and Swerve were healthy, no disrespect to them, because I think they're both stars. I think Swerve's matches are ridiculous, and I'm not really a fan of them. But they're both stars, but they're not major stars. So even if they were there, it wouldn't make a difference. There's no major stars. There's no stars. And they have so many goofs that don't look like they belong on this show. And if you tuned in 2 years ago and saw Wheeler Yuta, Daniel Garcia, they're still there. They're still there. It's the same B-level, C-level players they keep throwing out there. They have Don Callis with like every fucking heel on the show. Heels that matter, heels that don't. Heels that you don't see.
And that the heels that don't matter in the group make the heels that matter seem less matterful.
The commentators. We weren't a few minutes into this. I don't even remember the exact words, but it was something from Tony Schiavone along the lines of, "This is why AEW is great." Who is he saying this for? We're in the middle of the match, and then serious shit happens, and the three of them, and I'm sorry to incriminate Taz, but yeah, him too, start chuckling and laughing at like murder. Like all this shit that's happening around them, the serious stuff, the stuff that should be like, oh my God, someone's gonna die, that's what makes them laugh. I'm clapping my hands, I'm sorry, I'm getting fired up.
Yes.
You know, I mean, also we have to say you may be part of the blame. I mean, now that we know that they've switched Nielsen homes just recently, maybe it's one less wrestling fan or two less wrestling fans this go around than it was last time. But there's how many just random 8-man tag matches are there? Or 4-way matches with guys who aren't over. And they still want to pretend like the Young Bucks are stars. The Young Bucks don't mean a fucking thing to this show. And they wouldn't mean a goddamn thing to any other show right now. They don't have any stars. Omega's done again. They have to hide him in tag matches. He can't go. And you understand why. He wrestled as physical a style as every wrestler learned don't do if you want to have a career. So whatever you get from this point on is gravy. But they have no star power. The show just feels like a runaway train. And this week, you know, at least in the past when they had bad shit, and this has been, again, another bad show, they give you a heads up. Like a few days out, like, oh my God, look at what they fucking booked on Dynamite. This is going to be a shit show. They're not even doing that anymore. They don't even tell you what crap matches are coming up on this show before they happen. And they follow up on nothing. Everyone wanted to make a big deal of that pay-per-view. Meltzer said it was like amazing. Just these matches are amazing. No one came back Wednesday to see what happened. And then the next week, more of the audience died. The Wardlow follow-up died. Everything
I forgot
died.
about him.
Everything on this show, the Death Riders, literal death. Literal ratings death. Audience death. Interest death. And it's just a B-team crew there. And I'm getting mad about it because I've been saying just recently, Tony's got to fight back and Tony's got to give it back to WWE. That's what I would do if I was a fucking billionaire's son with an unlimited budget. But you know what? He's not the one. Like, we have to hope some golden child will come along at some point.
Oh, good Lord.
And fix things with $1 billion or $1 trillion. But it ain't Tony. And he's never going to accept it. There's this embarrassing video of him running. I don't even know what it's from, at the ECW arena on Dynamite or after it at the other taping, whatever they were taping. No one takes him serious. I'm getting all fired up just because it's the state of Dynamite. It's not even about this week's episode. It's the state of all of this.
Here is what the problem is going to be. They have finally gotten to the point, after expenditure of tens and hundreds, potentially of millions of dollars, where they're getting paid from the television network, the rights fees. The numbers are going in the wrong direction. And I asked this question when shortly after the rights fee deal was announced. Is there an out? Is there a bar they have to stay above? Certainly, if something happened, the XFL, there was just I saw a documentary the other day, the 30 for 30 they did. Their first game had 50 million viewers.
Yeah, that's right.
And within like fucking 6 weeks or whatever, they were the lowest rated primetime network program in history. If they get to a certain point, which they would appear to be reaching this past week, and they level out there, or even continue to go farther, is there a point where the network says, what the fuck are we doing here? Because Collision, just on Saturday night.
Oh, did you see those ratings?
It was like 190-something thousand people.
Yeah, I'll pull them up when we do Dynamite's ratings later. It's a week of just awfulness.
But that's the point, is their Wednesday night show and Saturday night show together did not equal the viewership that their Wednesday night show alone had 2 years ago. So Tony can't keep, and Tony, and as you said, people he talks or texts to, or people that have the same mindset, let's say, things going on in their minds, that they believe that a large number of people know who was in every faction in New Japan Wrestling 7 years ago. And if we run them all out there and either get them to fucking have a brawl or sometimes just stare at each other, people will buy tickets hand over fist. No.
That's just
go ahead.
It's a depressing state of affairs because it doesn't seem like anything's going to get better. They're not going to all of a sudden get access to top flight stars. There's nothing on the horizon that's going to change anything. And again, it's Tony at the top, booking now for 6 years straight. And he doesn't want to acknowledge the realities. And even if he did, who's he turning it over to? Bryan Danielson? Seriously, who? It's a sad state of affairs right now at AEW, and it doesn't appear like anything's going to get better. It's gotten a whole lot worse, and again, we don't know what Max... Maybe Max was 10 million people this week, but I don't think it was. I don't think it was a couple 100,000 people.
Let's give the people an example, because here is how the show started. They're still in the ECW closet, the ECW arena, 900 people. And the announcers are running down the show, and here comes, I wrote Josh Alexander. Then, it's Gabe Kidd. Do they not look identical? Can you tell the goddamn difference between Josh Alexander and Gabe Kidd?
Gabe Kidd has a little bit more of a slouch.
Okay, so slouchy Kid.
Josh Alexander has good posture.
Kid comes out and interrupts the open, gets in the ring and calls out Darby out. And Darby slides into the ring from behind, and Gabe Kidd stops him immediately. But Darby fights back and sticks Gabe Kidd's arm in the top of the ring post. So they got a cheap ring. Their posts aren't capped, but it was creative. But then Gabe Kidd takes back over and they get in a fight on the floor. Now, meanwhile, there is a smattering of clapping going on. Most of the people are just watching this like, what the already this is going on. And they want to like Darby, but every time that Darby gets started doing something, Gabe Kidd cuts him off. And then he rolled Darby in the ring and went to find something under the ring and yelled at the fans, turned his back so Darby could cough and drop him off the top rope. That got a pop. Then they're back in the ring and Darby charges him to give him the backsplash in the corner and Gabe Kidd catches him in a choke. And I'm what the? They're having a match disguised as a street fight. They're doing spots now. Here comes Wheeler Useless, and Darby nails him and levels Gabe Kidd and pulls out the thumbtack-covered skateboard, and Yuta bends over and waits so he can get up on the turnbuckles and jump off the turnbuckles and skate across his back with the thumbtacks. But then he threatens Gabe Kidd with the board, but he can't do anything because he has to wait for Dick the Boozer, and Boozer's late. But then finally, out comes Boozer with Claudio and Marina Schaefer, and nothing happens. But then the lights go out. And then the new hook music starts playing. Brian, have you ever heard more uninspiring entrance music? What the fuck is that?
Yeah, the Death Riders music.
No, the hook music, whatever it is, whoever it is, whatever, it's not good. And he comes out and there's no response. It's dead silence.
Yeah, see, the hook music and the whole hook signal thing would work if it was going to be some big, strong maniac that comes out there and kicks everyone's ass, but it isn't.
He's doing the same thing he was doing 5 years ago, and it's not his fault. They need to come up with something different for him to do. They throw the signal, they play this lousy music, he walks out, and then when there's no response from the fans and there's dead silence, they play different music, and Samoa Joe and Hobbs run right past him, past Hook, that is, and get in a fight with all of the horsemen. The people pop for them, but they're doing some kind of thing where Hook doesn't want to be told what to do or how to do it. And he argues later on with Joe and Hobbs, and he's mad he got replaced. Jesus Christ. Anyway, back to this thing. They have a big sloppy fight all over the building. Somehow Willow is out there beating up Marina Schaefer. And then some of them left. Some of them were still in the fight. But then the camera goes to the back and there's Darby Allin and Gabe Kidd again. And in the back of the building, and Gabe Kidd, they're fighting, and he's cutting a phony, dramatic promo on Darby Allin and takes a ball-peen hammer and is going to bash Darby's head in. But Darby moves, and he sticks the hammer in the wood platform of the thing of the deal. Then Darby goes to a truck and grabs powder and throws powder in Gabe Kidd's eyes.
Yeah, what was that?
Well, that was to blind him so that he could then grab a rag out of the truck and chloroform the motherfucker. They're doing every goddamn Southern wrestling angle, and it was done over a 20-year period in a 5-minute fucking fight. He's they're in the arena brawl. He has fucking tried the hammer. He powdered his eyes. Now he chloroforms the guy. And while he's unconscious, Darby puts him in a body bag. But the body bag is chained to the back of the pickup truck. Do any of them stop and think when they are coming up with this shit while they're stoned or taking kratom or whatever they're doing, how preposterous this all is when it's all strung together? When they come up with it, or are they oblivious? And then he gets in the truck and basically pulls out with the bag, with Gabe Kidd in the bag, chained to the back of the goddamn truck as he pulls him out so that Gabe Kidd can have the fun of doing a movie stuntman stunt. And he drags him off. What the fuck?
There's a lot there. I guess in the beginning, we'll start with the end. The pulling away of him, or with him in the body bag. I mean that's gotta hurt. The burning, or go over a pebble, just anything.
Well, I think there was some type of surface in the body bag because he wasn't turning over and everything. He was the flat pull, but I don't want to do it.
Here's the thing. They did a lot there. The babyface did a lot.
Well, yes.
To this heel who hasn't been established. And that's weird because he's been in some big matches already. Because he shows up on TV like the week before and you're like, who's that? Oh, it's Gabe Kidd. He's friends with Moxley. Oh yeah, how? Why? He'll be in the match. They don't tell you anything. And he pops up on this show and we're supposed to care. And there's a lot of people like that. They don't establish anyone and then they pop up. They get treated like we're supposed to care and then they disappear.
Well, and the best part, Brian, was before we leave this, you have to remember we had another issue going on because when we left the building, Willow and Schaefer and Joe and Hobbs and Claudio and Kidd and Moxley and the whole Hee Haw gang were just having the big fight, right? After we see Darby pull Gabe Kidd off in the bag, they go back to the arena and the announcers are like, oh boy, we don't know what's going to happen with old Darby. And there's nobody fighting. The whole fight in the building, everybody just, no explanation. They're just gone. It's over. They left. They weren't mad anymore. Whatever. How many people were involved in that thing? We should count some.
Man, how many times have we asked that question in the last few weeks about AEW? Right? The pre-show for the pay-per-view. These giant 8-man, or 8, yeah, it is 8-man. I was supposed to say 8-team. 8-man matches on the show.
Don't give him any ideas. 8 teams. Oh, everyone for himself. So anyway, then to continue the pattern of just not getting anybody over. It's just a mess. The next match is for one of the women's titles with Mercedes Mone against Alex Windsor. Alex Windsor has just gotten there. She's got good size. She's a fine, healthy-looking female specimen. She's old Will Ospreay's significant other. I don't know what their legal status is. She's a new, fresh face. She's not nearly as rotten as Megan Brain or Penelope or, any of the other bad indie outlaw Japanese girls that they've featured in the past. More on that in a moment. So maybe she could do something. So here's what they do with her. They put her in a match with Mercedes. With entrances, it goes 20 fucking minutes. Mercedes had a crossface on her for like a minute or so. Windsor gets out of it, but Mercedes just rolls her up 1, 2, 3. The heel beat the babyface clean without cheating and in the most boring way possible. When this is a brand new talent that they might want to push and give some credibility to. So they think it's giving her credibility when she goes 20 minutes. Because they don't see that this is goddamn boring for television audience to sit there and watch this goddamn forever. But she needs to win. It gets her over by winning. If she can't beat Mercedes, don't book her against Mercedes. But she would get over by winning, not by going 20 minutes and then getting beat by a heel. It's a better wrestler. It doesn't have to cheat. Then you know what she is? She's a loser.
That's the problem. Tony thinks that gets them over.
But then the babyface, who's already been beaten clean in the middle of the ring by the heel without cheating, goes for a handshake. Mercedes gives her the finger. So Alex Windsor says, well, fuck you, and attacks her. And Mercedes hits her with the title belt and knocks her the fuck out and gets her hold again. So now she lost clean. She was disrespected to her face. She started a fight that she ended up getting her ass kicked again. And as she's in this hold and helpless, music plays, and guess who comes out? Riho! Riho is back. And she beat up Mercedes, and Mercedes sold for that. So the ultimate indignity, Windsor gets beat clean. She gets disrespected. She gets her ass beat in a fight that she started. And then she gets saved by a joke wrestler that's half her size. And the girl that she couldn't beat in 20 minutes gets her ass kicked in 30 seconds by this goddamn midget. Thank you for coming, Alex Windsor. Your services are no longer required because what's the point? That's why nobody gets over in this company. Because Tony, his mental condition and his upbringing of dealing with 3 other people on a fantasy wrestling board has not prepared him, imagine that, to get big-time talent over on a big-time television show. Your thoughts, Brian, on Riho?
And again, one of the simple concepts you would think even a fool would get about getting someone over is have them win. That just seems like the most basic, easy concept. I want to try to get this person over. I want people to be interested in them having a big match. They need to win. But we didn't even get there. I'm excited for Riho versus Mercedes Mone. AEW past versus AEW present. We're going to be shocked when Riho is actually bigger than Mercedes, I think. We'll see.
Only in her thighs. Only in her thighs.
You know, did she come through the crowd? When they played her music, did she come through the entranceway or did she come through the crowd?
Well, no, there's really not a lot of difference. There's only 900 people in the building. But no, I think she came out through the entranceway. Last
time she ran out, she had a lead pipe. Remember that? That was one of the most ridiculous visuals ever. It was bigger than her. You know, so much. I said that there's long-term damage with AEW Dynamite at the top. And one of the things has been Mercedes Mone. And I get it that she does have a dedicated fan base, although they're not big enough to matter. And I think that needs to be said. Because they've given her more screen time than probably any woman, maybe more than Toni Storm. They've given her more screen time. They've let her do everything she has wanted to do, which is clearly just acting out her fantasies as a wrestling character that's not believable. But when you look at the things that have led to the slide in television viewers or anything else that's a metric that you look at with AEW, she's one of the guilty parties. And again, it's Tony allowing this, and Tony's the biggest guilty party of them all in terms of the quality of all this. But the Mercedes Mone character is a big part of the problem.
Well, at least we can look forward to the next episode of Mone Mag. Are they still doing that little scam?
Yeah, we'll have to see. Well, it's free, so you can't call it a scam. It's free. They don't have advertising, I don't think. But
what's your time worth to you?
So Will Ospreay's out with his surgery.
Yeah.
And now his significant other got beat a couple times here. And there was nothing really to give you hope about, hope she comes back next week. Like, it was just like, okay, she's done. It felt like. And then Kenny's girl comes back. Yeah, Kenny's girl comes back in the same angle to go after Mercedes. And then he gets stretchered out. That doesn't look good for Riho.
Well, I'm sure he has a whole harem of women hanging around him that can take care of him during his convalescence.
Harem scarum.
Ooh. Speaking of scaring me, Jesus Christ, Mark Briscoe, at some point, he's going to hurt himself. He's still working his ass off. And the people love him, but they keep his promos are good. He came out, cut a promo and said Don Callis looked like Elton John dressed up like a prosthetic penis. And he wants Kyle Felcher and he wants the TNT title. It just, he's working his ass off and he has deserved so much better. The people liked him. They would have liked him more. But now they're just putting him in here to constantly get the shit kicked out of him and fail in the end. And I don't know what they don't see about, they had a chance to have a really great gimmick babyface here. And instead, nevertheless, he does a promo. He wants Kyle for the TNT title, but now Callis says that he's got to beat somebody to get to Kyle, so he wants that guy. And the music plays, and out comes old Don Fallis with Rocky Romero and Lance Archer. And the fans do the thing where they boo over Don and they don't listen to him. And again, it was funny when it was Dominic, and it was cool when it was Dominic, and Dominic wasn't trying to say anything important anyway. They were milking it. But when now they've just decided they're going to do it because they don't give a fuck what these people are saying, you can't get the goddamn angle out. And he said Briscoe's opponent on Saturday. So Mark came out on Wednesday and called out the guy he's supposed to fight. And Don says it's going to be on Saturday. And it's Take a Shit. And his music plays. And he comes out wearing a dress shirt and genie pants. What in the world?
Who thought he was ready to go play golf in the 30s?
I don't know what. Why do they want him to look ridiculous instead of cool and badass? But he gets in the ring, does a face-off with Mark Briscoe, and then gets back out of the ring. And okay, we've established that's the match on Saturday, but now Briscoe cuts another promo, but I want to fight right now. So Rocky Romero volunteers, but Don picks Lance Archer. And so now we've got Mark Briscoe versus Lance Archer. And here's the thing, Lance Archer has all the size. He can do shit. He works like a giant. The problem is he's been booked by Tony Khan for 5 years now. And so nobody whatsoever gives a shit about him or anything that he does. Because why would you with the things that he's done? And he just beats up Mark Briscoe. Whenever Mark is fighting back, the people are with it. Whenever Archer takes over on him, it's dead silence because they love Mark and they don't give a shit about the other guy. And they go a few minutes too long, and Mark hit the froggy bow and won 1, 2, 3. I'd be very interested to see if he beats Take a Shit on Saturday, and he's certainly not going to beat Kyle for the title. So there's Mark Briscoe that could be the answer to so many of their problems if they'd taken care of him from the start 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was. Instead, they're starving for baby faces, and he could be a buffet, but he's been booked into the middle. So you got that going for you.
And A, I wouldn't put him over Takeshita right now. And B, if I was going to do that match, I would have put that match on Wednesday night.
Well, they want 198,000 people to see it on Saturday.
You know, I'm talking about things that lead to the long-term damage. Don Callis and his stable, but really him, getting on commentary every time one of his people are out there and he does his shtick. But he's like Robert Fuller in Memphis. Like just all
he's
over
not
this
that
show.
Good.
All over this show.
He's all over the show, but he's not that good.
And he's not even the booker. And he's all over this show for no reason. And again, there's a lot of central characters who have been all over Dynamite for the last year and a half or so that are the reason it's an unwatchable show you don't care about.
If Don was a manager, it might be better, but he doesn't manage. He doesn't lead the group in a lot of the promos in terms of advancing their shit. He just does indie sounding stuff. He doesn't manage at ringside. He doesn't interfere in the major match. And when he does, it's a comedy type of thing where he kicks somebody and hurts himself. It's just, there's no manager to it. I don't know what's going on there. tag team title was on the line, Brian. Bandito and Burger King against Claudio and Wheeler. And I'm sorry, but I refuse. I refuse. I'm not. And here's what they did. 12 minutes in, Dick the Boozer comes out, runs Brody King into the post. They get a 2 count on Bandito. Darby comes out and tackles Moxley, and they get in a fight. And Bandito hit that goofy move that he does on Wheeler, useless 1, 2, 3.
Claudio.
I'm sorry.
Claudio and Wheeler together is, again, one of these things that has been all over this show as everything has died. People do not want to see the Death Riders. I'm sorry I know you like Claudio, and this is not the Claudio of 2010.
I'm tired. This is not the Claudio of the Kings of Wrestling.
That's
this
right.
is the Claudio of the Bane of Wrestling.
Yeah, this is terrible stuff. And Brodito, the fans at least like them and are into them. But Brodito being the tag champions probably is a bigger indictment on the tag team division than it is on either of them as a tag team.
Well, speaking of the tag team division and the tag team roster, they've got a marquee tag team match coming up in Toronto. In Edge and Christian reunited in their hometown against FTR, who they can actually have a decent match with, even though the promotion of it has been so muddled and messy. But then before we even have the match, they start taking the attention away from that match and start muddling it up to where you've seen too much physically. You get distracted by a shiny light on the wall of some other direction, and there's no clear path here. Again, Edge comes to the ring, apparently to do a promo, but before his music stops playing, he's immediately jumped by FTR, who kicked the shit out of him for 15 seconds or so until Christian Cage hits the ring. And they have a 4-way, and they were trying to do a major pull apart with security and other wrestlers and wild violence and chaos. And what they had was a pull apart with a bunch of nameless, faceless security guys and job guys trying to pull these guys apart, where the fans were just sitting there watching. Because they've already seen 3 different arena-wide brawls and goddamn dives off the roof and all this shit. And now 4 guys are having another fight. What's the difference? And nothing was even said before this. It just burst out. And then when they get them separated, Edge and Christian, the baby faces, left first. And Edge was the one that came out to do an interview. Hope he didn't have anything important to say.
Yeah, what was he going to say?
Who knows? He never said it. Because FTR have to be left in the ring because now they get in a fight with one of the job guys that came out to separate them. And they grab one guy and spike pile drive one of the jobbers, and the other one starts fighting them and getting offense. And I'm, what the fuck? And then they go to the break and they come back and they're in the back of the building with FTR and Stokely, and they're starting to cut a promo on Edge and Christian. But almost immediately, Dax is screaming off camera, "Hey, you, come here, come here." And the jobber that had gotten offense on him comes in and starts apologizing. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I lost my head. I don't know what I was doing. And Cash gets in his face and cuts a promo on him and tells him to get a partner for Saturday. They've got a match coming up on the pay-per-view with Edge and Christian, and they're challenging job guys. What the fuck is happening?
I can't explain it. You know, there has not been a single positive move in the booking of FTR, arguably since CM Punk left. But I don't think it's even tied into that, unless you're going to say Punk was booking them. But just nothing is booked right. The Edge and Christian feud, which should have been a big deal for them, they blew that. And now they're reuniting. Like you said, why is there anything sidetracking anyone between now and the big match they're going to have? It should be about pounding that match, making it something that people really want to see and have to see, not, oh, well, the FTR get past whoever that guy was. He wasn't even like a big guy or anything. He was smaller than them.
Yes.
I don't know what justifies any of this in any of their minds. And then Stokely, every time he does a serious promo or tries to, you can't take him seriously. Because you've seen too much of him. Overexposure.
What has he done to be taken seriously? A comedy match with Edge, some witty promos about people that they didn't really have a major thing going with. He's never won them anything. He's never gained them any prize or come through in a pinch. He doesn't have any heat. He hasn't ever fucked anybody around.
And with all that said, I'm sure it'll probably be the best match at the pay-per-view. Unless they overcomplicate the finish and try to do too much, it'll be the best match at the pay-per-view.
It will. And the people will love Edge and Christian because it's Toronto. But they've got all this time to promote it. And they've already botched the whole thing up. And they gave away Edge and Christian's first match as a team against job guys. Well, it was supposed to be Nick Plain and Pip. Turned out to be Pip and the fucking Lizard.
Has there been any follow-up to that? Where's the Lizard go?
I guess he crawled back down to his...
No follow-up. A big return. He got a big pop. Even though he's supposed to be on the heel side, the fans are chanting for him both at Dynamite and the pay-per-view. And then he's just off TV again?
Well, he needs a cold environment. No, he needs a warm environment, right? Lizard, they're cold-blooded. They need to be warm.
Yeah. I don't know what you're thinking of.
If they're warm-blooded, they need to be cold. Cold-blooded chickens.
Now that's pretty cold-blooded right there.
Well, but you know what? Maybe we're not hearing about everything because we're not listening, Brian. What they need to do is they need to come up with a second audio program on the AEW Dynamite where we can watch what's going on the screen. We can turn down the awful announcers and we can stick in our Raycon Everyday Wireless Earbud Classics to have a second audio program where somebody can explain to us Tony Khan's booking. And that way we'd have everything covered. Or we could actually just listen to some Skinnerd Man on our Raycons and not have to worry about understanding any of it. What do you think?
Maybe some Devo would be more apropos considering we're talking about the de-evolution of professional wrestling.
Well, we are Devo, D-E-V-O. And folks, Raycon's Everyday Earbuds are EARBUDS earbuds. And they're packed with upgrades, UPGR,
We're through being cool. Let's get back to the spot.
Okay, well, this message is sponsored by Raycon. And of course, you know that because we're telling you how great their products are. And, it's back to school time. Kids are going back to school. They've gone back to school. You remember back to school shopping when you were a kid? It was always the first sign of the apocalypse. You didn't want to buy those notebooks, those fucking pencils, those goddamn crayons. You might have wanted the new shoes, but you didn't want any of the rest of it because you knew what it meant. Well, now that you're an adult...
You had a problem with crayons?
Well, only where I have to take the crayons and utilize the crayons in the gulag known as elementary school. Where all the little small human beings are herded together and stuck there all day. But now that you're an adult, you don't have to go to school. But you can still buy yourself new stuff and start over fresh with brand new things in the fall. And that's why we encourage you to go to Buy Raycon, BUYRAYCON, buyraycon.com right now and take a look at what they've done. The Everyday Earbuds Classics have been re-released and packed with upgrades, the active noise cancellation, the multi-point connectivity, the super comfortable ergonomic fit. You remember about those ergonomics, Brian.
Of course.
These things are ergonomic, and if you put a little Vaseline on them and put them in that hole, just twirl them around just right, well, boy, howdy, it'll trip your trigger and tickle your taint.
No, we're talking basic ergonomics, and Jim, we're talking Raycon.
Well, basic ergonomics, word life, pal. And they've got a new cool mint color for all of you green-skinned people out there. Plus, they got up to 32 hours of battery life, a quick charge for 90 minutes in just 10, and they've got an awareness mode. Let's say you're out walking the dog, but you want to be aware of your surroundings in case somebody's coming up from behind you with a ball-peen hammer like on AEW. Well, when that happens, you're going to get an electric shock in your earbuds that indicates you need to turn around and duck the swing. And then, once you take the hammer away from whoever is attacking you while you're turning their brains into jelly, you can listen to the finest tunes from Jelly Roll. See how that works? I use the Raycons and the ball-peen hammer, and you should too, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's not talk about that. Hey, Jim.
Yes.
Oh, you hear that chime? You know what that chime means? That chime means it's time for a deal for the listeners.
Right to the point. Well, what you can do is go to buyraycon.com/JCE. Right now, you're going to get 20% off site-wide. That means from one end of the site to the other. And boy, it's a wide site. 20% off anything they got in the place. Buyraycon.com/JCE. Get those new earbuds for, well, you're not going back to school, but now that the kids are back to school, buy something for yourself. You get to spend the day in some relative peace and quiet without those little crumb snatching rugrats around. Celebrate.
With Raycon.
Yeah.
I think is what we want to say there.
Yes.
Raycon. And of course, one more time, that promo code, Jim.
Buyraycon.com/JCE, 20% off. And you know, you don't get that every day. See what I did there?
Very good. Well, let's whip it back over to AEW Dynamite.
Whip it good. Well, let's see if this was indeed what finally put the nail in the coffin of the ratings for this week, because now they haven't done it enough, Brian. Over the course of the recent weeks, they had to come up with another random 8-man tag where a bunch of people can do a bunch of moves and then they hospitalize somebody at the end of it. That's basically the main event. Sometimes the faces change. You had Josh Alexander, who I thought for a minute was Gabe Kidd. You had Kyle Felcher and you had the Hardley Boys teamed up against Kevin Knight, Hong Kong Phooey, Hangnail Page, and Kenny. Don't forget about Kenny. It is... What differentiates this from anything else they do? Any other these 8-man matches where nobody follows any rule, there's no story told, there's no point made. It's a chance for everybody to do as many of their various athletic tricks and stunts as they can until somebody wins. And this is the same kind of forgettable shit that they've been presenting on and off, mostly on, since they've been on the air, which is why so many people have given up, because what else can you fucking see? They started at 20 minutes until 10 and they were still going at 10 o'clock because they got to do the overrun because early on it helped their average, but I think lately it's a toss-up as to whether it helps the average or hurts. But soon as they get past 10, they go 2 minutes into the overrun and they hit Kevin Knight with 3 big moves in a row at 1, 2, 3. They always beat Kevin Knight. They never beat the little girl that's his tag team partner. Then, I know this is surprising to you, but then the heels start to get more heat. And the Hardley Boys get in a fight with Hong Kong Phooey and Kevin Knight, and they fight off. So those 4 went somewhere. But here comes Lance Archer and Rocky Romero. And they start all kicking the shit out of Kenny and Hangnail, along with Kyle and Josh. And then they set a chair up in the ring, and Kyle brainbusters Page on the chair. Now, that's not the hospitalization angle. They just wanted to get one of the baby faces out of the way with something simple so they could do the angle where they really injure somebody. So the one guy's been brainbustered on a fucking chair in the middle of the ring just to get him out of the way. Then they set a table up on the floor, and all four of the heels get on Kenny. And this was way slower than it sounds. And then Kyle gives Kenny, it was supposed to be a brain buster, but it was a vertical suplex, bad enough, off the apron of the ring, through a table, and almost killed the both of them. And then they do the same thing that how many shows have they done it lately? It was twice on the pay-per-view, wasn't it? I think they carried somebody out on TV the week before last, but out comes the neck brace, out comes the doctors, and they neck brace Kenny, and they fucking cart him off to go to Swerve Land and Osprey Land and whoever else. Again, I can't remember the list. In the last month. Why is any of this expected to mean anything? Or does Tony just, because of his condition, have to tie up all these loose ends, no matter whether it's good for business or not?
Well, I don't think this tied up any loose ends.
Well, I mean, as far as, we're not going to have Kenny on TV for a month because he's going for some type of planned medical deal and to renew his Japanese visa. Because Lord knows, he doesn't want to get shut out of Japan. Okay, he's gone to Japan to do publicity and renewing his visa. You don't have to break his neck when you just broke 3 necks last week.
And we bring up lack of star power. This match is a perfect example. The Young Bucks don't mean shit. Speedball Mike Bailey as a main eventer. How's that working out?
Oh, good God.
As a main eventer, how's that working out? And now the Bucks will go have a match with them, and they'll do all their flips and kick out of everything, and people will rave about it, and no one will give a shit. The next day, everyone will forget about it and move on. And it won't draw a number, and no one will buy a ticket to see it. It's just another meaningless thing on this show. The Callis family's death. Like, Rocky Romero just being a member there doesn't seem like all of a sudden he's there. He's like barely on this show. This show's in a sorry death fall right now, and I don't see anything on the horizon that could pull it out. I only see things that's going to damage more people when they're on this show. MJF was pretty much away from this entire episode. The Hurt Syndicate had a backstage promo.
Oh, I forgot about that. They were in the back for a minute and a half talking about a 6-man in Toronto with Ricochet and his 2 preliminary guy stooges. So they got MVP in the ring, and instead of it making a difference to force MVP in the ring against somebody, they said, okay, we'll do it with Ricochet and his job guys.
And then they lay out Omega during the overrun where less people will see it than any other point of the show. And unless you think people are going to go search for this on YouTube, and again, everything's down. Interest in AEW is down. We've seen it. It's down. And you can understand why. It's a rough show to get through. They have no star power. The limited stars they have get hurt and disappear. And the booking is just mightily frustrating.
Well, that's why they're in the shape they're in. And before we get to the shape they're in, Brian, which is the big story, the ratings of this week, I guess they had an unscheduled Super Bowl opposite them. But what in the world are the highly rated programs on the Arcadian Vanguard Network doing this week?
It doesn't have to be the Super Bowl. Remember the Little League World Series kicked our ass a few weeks ago. Little League. Go get information about all the shows on Twitter at Superpodcast, on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. Of course, each and every day, the wrestling news is there for you. TheWrestlingNews.com directly, or wherever you find your favorite podcast. No clickbait, no paywall, just the wrestling news. Want to make mention of Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam, a look at 1985, 40 years ago in Mid-South Wrestling. McAdamPod.com, or look for Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership! Yeah, there's some house guests here that don't know what just happened. Go through the archive, 605pod.com, wherever you find your favorite podcast. Your sound effect crapped out, but we will crap on you.
So you got house guests. How much you charging them?
Not enough.
So, the ratings for Dynamite. I got me a piece of paper here.
Well, before we get there, Jim,
yes.
I think part of the story is Collision on Saturday, although technically part of a different week. That was a big story that I was going to talk to you about before the Dynamite story happened.
Well, that's true, because that Collision was the night before their big event, correct? Their pay-per-view extravaganza. Or was it? No, it was the one after. It was the week after.
It was the week after.
It's the one we're talking about.
That's right.
So after their big pay-per-view, not only were the Dynamite ratings down last week, but then this was the first Collision after the pay-per-view, and they did somewhat stunning record lows. Is this correct?
I don't know if you could say somewhat stunning at this point, but 195,000 viewers on average for Collision on August 30th, 2025, 8 to 10 p.m. The lowest non-preemption Collision in the history of the show, and for the key demo, 18 to 49, it's tied with February 1st, 2025, as the lowest of the non-preemption episodes, according to WrestleNomics, down 31% from last week, which was 281. We'll break down what was on this show, what people didn't want to see, but, you've always talked about the network, and so many people want to focus on the streaming priorities of the network. The numbers keep going down. They can't be ignored. The key demo is disappearing. That's the bigger problem, maybe.
Well, with Collision, 195,000 viewers on a Saturday night from 8 to 10 o'clock. I know there's been attrition on the TV audience in general, but that can't be, even that low cannot be acceptable to the network if it becomes a pattern, and 281 ought to be in that general range as well of unacceptable for a Saturday night primetime telecast, even in today's sorrowful television environment.
Would you have watched this show? Here are the quarter hours compiled by WrestleNomics, August 30th, 2025, Collision Saturday night. 8 to 8:15 p.m., quarter one, Daniel Garcia versus Blake Christian. Post-match with the Death Riders, the Conglomeration backstage, the Paragon backstage, or maybe they're together, the Callis family versus the Conglomeration, 219,000 viewers. Quarter two, 8:15, 8:30, continuation of that match, post-match, picture-in-picture, Jamie Hayter, Tekla angle, 199, bottoming out at 43,000 in the key demo. 43,000. Quarter three, 8:30, 8:45, an ad break. The Matriarchy backstage angle. And the start of Jay Lethal versus Hologram with picture-in-picture and full-screen ads. 179, that's the low of the show.
Good Lord. And poor Jay Lethal, and I forgot he worked there. And we got to look at what we got to look at on Wednesday nights, but we can't ever see Jay Lethal wrestle. And when he does wrestle, he's in there with Monogram.
And if you saw him on Wednesday night, it would hurt the number because of the way he's been used since he got there. He doesn't matter on Saturday, doesn't matter on Wednesday. But no one matters. I mean, that's the other problem. We go to quarter four, 8:45 to 9 p.m., the finish of Lethal versus Hologram, post-match, Ricochet promo, ad break, Alex Windsor versus Ashley Vox. Post-match, Don Callis, Mark Briscoe backstage angle, 188,000, so a big jump back up to 188,000, 61 in the key demo. 9 o'clock hour, 9 to 9:15 p.m. FTR versus Adam Priest and JD Drake, with picture-in-picture, a post-match, and a Death Before Dishonor recap. 186,000 viewers. So far, would you watch this show?
Well, I don't even know who half these people are.
9:15 and 9:30 p.m., quarter six, an ad break, Callis family backstage promo, and the start of Juice Robinson versus Big Bill. I forgot about him.
Poor Juice.
And Big Bill, where's he been? With picture-in-picture and full-screen ads, 184,000.
Well, the answer is he's been over on Collision that nobody watches, not just us, but nobody else either.
Well, we have 2 more quarters here, Jim. Quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. Juice Robinson versus Big Bill continued. Skyflight backstage angle. Who's Skyflight? I don't know. Gabe Kidd backstage promo, an ad break, and the start of Mina Shirakawa and Queen Aminata and Tony Storm versus Billy Starks and the Triangle of Madness. 200,000 viewers. Final quarter, 9:45.
Oh, Billy Starks is a draw.
9:45 to 10 p.m. Mina Shirakawa is a draw. The final quarter, continuation of that match, and the post-match with Tekla, 208,000 viewers.
So, to be honest, I think this is the first time I could ever remember where the 2 highest rated quarter hours were the first one and the last one. And in the middle was Drek. They 3 quarters over 200,000 people out of 8 on a Saturday night from 8 to 10. What? All righty then.
And again, you're not presenting programs that even your fans want to go out of their way to see. Max be damned.
But hey, Brian, at least the Wednesday night ratings are holding up.
Oh, yeah. The Wednesday night ratings for AEW Dynamite this past week, September 3rd, 2025, on TBS, 8 to 10:06 p.m., on average, watched by 472,000 viewers. A .11 in the key demo. Lowest cable audience and key demo audience for a regularly airing episode of Dynamite in the history of the show.
Okay, was there a run-through of the Super Bowl on another channel? Was there a major sporting event, a live broadcast of goddamn beheading? Somebody said that Uncle Dave said, well, the U.S. Open tennis tournament was big, but it still should have been that big. Do you think any of these people are watching tennis?
Dave makes a lot of excuses for Tony Khan not being capable of booking this. And then he jumps on any success and pretends like it disproves everything else, ignoring everything in front of his face that everyone sees.
So we have no indication that there was a major program that would appeal to the AEW audience past the U.S. Open tennis tournament that was against this thing. We need to find out whether this was just something that happened, and next week maybe they'll be back up to 600,000, or whether this is the start of another trend. But it ain't good this close after a major pay-per-view where all of their entire top babyface side of the roster got wiped out and sent to the goddamn health facilities.
Now, again, it is important to note, I don't have them in front of me, but NXT's numbers have been down the last several weeks, apparently. And you just talked on the show about being chosen to be a Nielsen home. If you were just chosen, you got to think other people were just chosen.
You think they're switching the people around?
I mean, we joke around. Could this be as simple as there are less wrestling fans who are Nielsen homes right now than there were 2 weeks ago?
Well, but no, because think about this. Hold on here 1 second. They don't just change the homes every goddamn 5 years. It's a regular ongoing thing. So there's almost no way that suddenly they could make enough changes to take away 25% of this goddamn audience of this show that has a 5-year track record behind it of a pattern of a certain amount of viewership, and they don't all go away and stay away. It fluctuates, but they lose people over a gradual period of time. So I don't think one change is going to take away 200,000 fucking people. But, again, we'll see what happens week to week. But no, there's something else going on here. I think people are just fucking tired. They're like, what else are they going to do?
Well, listen to this. This is down 19% from last week, which was 585. 26% off the 4-week average, which is 638. So again, this is not just like a 1-week blip. This is coming off last week seemingly being the 1-week blip. And we're taking another hit down, a big hit down.
They have further blippage to go. But where did they start? Because again, the last few weeks that they've been down, it's been more of a steady audience throughout, where they don't start big and then lose a ton. They start smaller and keep more of them, but it's still fewer in the long run. So what did they do this week? Did they start high and plummet, or did they just never have them to begin with?
When we go to quarter one, these were compiled by WrestleNomics, Dynamite on September 3rd, 2025, quarter one, 8 to 8:15 p.m. The Gabe Kid, Darby Allin, Death Riders Ops Live angle, and the start of Mercedes Mone versus Alex Windsor, 521,000 viewers.
Ouch. Okay, they started low and stayed there. That's the lowest open in the history of the show, isn't it?
I think so. I think it has to, for a non-preempted episode, as they say, maybe. Quarter two, 8:15, 8:30 p.m., the continuation of Mone versus Windsor, picture-in-picture, and the post-match with Riho, 506,000 viewers.
So they lost 15,000, and they ought to consider themselves blessed at that, because after you see Riho, you gotta go. Did they go?
Well, we go to quarter three, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. The Ops promo, an ad break, Ricochet and the Gates of Agony promo, and the Mark Briscoe Callis family live angle, 487,000 viewers.
Yeah, Riho got them to go.
We go to quarter four, 8:45 to 9 p.m. Mark Briscoe versus Lance Archer with picture-in-picture, Tony Storm's promo, an ad break, and the Harley Cameron Chris Statlander promo, 483,000 viewers.
Well, at least probably Mark Briscoe was able to hold them steady. They thought, well, we won't go anywhere as long as he's around. But they've gone from 521 to 483. They've lost 38,000. That's not a big number, but when you start with 500,000, it's not helping.
Well, it's now time for the big 9 o'clock hour, quarter five, 9 to 9:15 p.m. Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta versus Bro Dito with picture-in-picture, 475,000 viewers.
They're hanging in there. They got their fingernails dug in on the edge of the cliff, and they're not going to let go.
We go to quarter six, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. Kazuchika Okada's promo, an ad break, the Hurt Syndicate's promo, and the Cope FTR Christian live angle, as well as a Garcia Moxley video, and an ad break, 440,000 viewers.
Well, it looks like one of the fingernails just broke off.
We go now to quarter seven, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The Young Bucks, Josh Alexander and Kyle Fletcher versus Adam Page, Jet Speed, and Kenny Omega with picture-in-picture, 440,000 viewers.
That's the exact same number. So apparently everybody was just full after a big meal and didn't want to make any moves.
Well, we go now to quarter eight. I remind you, a 6-minute overrun. Quarter eight, 9:45 to 10 p.m. Continuation of the 8-man tag match with picture-in-picture, 441,000 viewers. 6-minute overrun.
They actually eked out an extra 1,000 people. Go ahead.
6-minute overrun, 422,000 viewers for the post-match.
So, in a way, that's not bad. 521 to 422, that's 99,000 people. If you look at it in a positive fashion, that's the smallest number of viewers that they have ever lost over the course of a television show. It's also the smallest number they've ever started with, and potentially the smallest number they've ever ended with on a regularly scheduled program. Ooh.
This is not looking good. WWE keeps running against them. They just changed the time of their pay-per-view in Toronto because they know they're going to get crushed. I mean, they're putting what? AJ Lee in a match, Brock Lesnar in a match,
Cena.
I mean, it's a big show. AEW has no star power. And then you see this thing.
And the AEW has moved their pay-per-view start time to 3 p.m, but already Uncle Dave, who as we know is the mouth organ for Tony Khan's brain, is already said, oh yeah, I'm sure they'll run long. So they run into, like they're going to do damage to the WWE show with this dog and pony outfit that they've got right now. They're going to run long to try to make people not want to buy the WWE show. WWE is Brock Lesnar and John Cena. They've got a mixed tag with Punk and AJ Lee and Rollins and Becky. They've got all the promotion and this giant audience watching. They're just going to run this pay-per-view 6 hours for no reason to keep 22 people their attention that aren't going to switch over to watch WWE. Everybody that's going to watch WWE is going to watch WWE first and foremost. I mean, not just because it comes on second.
And by the way, same thing the other way. Like AEW have their fans that don't give a fuck about the WWE show. They're upset the show was moved because they don't care about WWE. They just want to see their show. But everything right now.
What about how many of these people you think were driving in that day from like out of town and now they're like, what the fuck? We got to leave at 6 a.m? Ay. Well, there you go, pal.
It's not looking
another
good.
Case of there you are.
It's not looking good. Right now, Tony Khan needs to be doing better than he has, and he's doing worse than he has, and not good.
You know, we always said we were going to be up and cheerful and bright and happy and peppy and bursting with love. And he brings us down. He brings us down. I feel so low.